Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So happy to see you here today. We're talking today about solutions to leading in challenging times and how to support our nurses. So this includes the frontline nurses, our formal nurse managers, leaders, wherever you are. This is all about you and how to lead in these challenging times. I'm so glad you could make it today. This is a really, really important topic, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. So let's get started, right? And please add your comments in the chat. Tell us where you are joining us from, and whether you're, listening to this after. So it could be a pound replay, or that you're live right now. I'll be able to see that. So I'll try to get to your questions if I can as I'm going along, right? So please participate, get involved. That's the way we make things a lot more connected. All right, so let's start here. We're going to talk today about leadership in challenging times, as I said, supporting our nurses. All right, so what is the challenge? Let's start, before we start to lead in challenging times, let's define what the challenge is. So when I brought this to a team, just I think it was last week or the week before, I was working with a team in South Africa. And so hello, Hutter Skewer Hospital in Cape Town, South Africa. This is a refresher for you, but this is where I had them break out into groups and talk about the challenge. So I want you to take a moment and maybe add into the comments, what do you think the challenge is right now for nurses to lead in these times, right, in healthcare right now? So as you're thinking about it or writing it to yourself, let me give you some of the challenges that came up. Some of the challenges that came up were that nurses are not working together, that nurses are refusing to do what they're asked to do. So if they're asked to move to different floors, they flat out refuse. They're not picking up on days off to come in when they're short staffed, things like that. These are expectations in a crisis that we might be expecting as leaders to be able to fill our challenges, right? So when we're short-staffed, we're reaching out to our staff and they're refusing to do the work because they're burnt out, right? They're exhausted. There are things like people not talking to each other, not working with each other, being overtired, being short-tempered. There's so many challenges out there right now with our nurses. And it's not about putting blame on nurses. It's not about making it okay. It just is. And I want to make sure that that's very clear. Sometimes when we're in a crisis, it just is. We have to come to the point of really naming the facts of what is going on. And all of us have our different perspectives on what that is. All right. So, I can give you a long, long list. And I know that in Cape Town, when we did this a couple of weeks ago, it was a long list of things. Also the management felt like they were being asked a lot of them to get their nurses to do things. And meanwhile, they've got the demands of the nurses and they've got the demand of upper management. So they're really sandwiched. So nursing leaders are really sandwiched. And let me talk about, leadership. Leaders are formal or informal. We're all leaders, whether we're leading in a formal job as a nurse manager or we're leading just from the bedside. Okay. And when I say just from the bedside, forgive me, I try not to use that word because it's nothing like just. But we're leading from the bedside or leading amongst our team, whether we're leading well or not leading well, we're leading. All right. So if I'm rolling my eyes and crossing my arms and, shrugging and, being annoyed with somebody in the room, I'm leading somebody else in the room that says, well, maybe should I be annoyed with that person too? Should I be following this person who's leading me to think that I should be doing something different? So challenges, we know they're in abundance. We are struggling in a spiral here where we don't know where we're heading. What are the positive outcomes that we're hoping to achieve? Is there even hope anymore? All these things come up in conversations with nurses. So yeah, what are the challenges? But what we need to know is, how do we support our nurses who are burnt out? And even more so, how do we all get the support we need? because it's not just the nurses that need the support at the bedside. It's also our managers. It's also the people who are making very difficult decisions at the very top. We all need the support. So how do we do this? So like today, we're focusing on the nurses and our nurse leaders, but I want to make sure that we understand that we're not in this alone. Okay. So yeah, what's the root cause? Oops, I don't know what happened to my slide here, but what's the root cause of this challenge? That's what we need to understand. Well, the root cause of our challenges is what we call moral injury. I don't know what happened here. My slides got transcribed over and messed up. But anyway, you get the gist. So what is moral injury? So if we take a look at the challenges we have, now we're looking at the root cause, which is really important, moral injury, and let's define what moral injury is, right? Moral injury results in deep psychological damage and mental stress. All right. And that's what we're experiencing. It occurs when people are taking part in or witnessing even actions that conflict with their core beliefs and moral values, such as being asked to do more than humanly possible and sacrificing adequate care for patients. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that what's happening? We go home and we say, I didn't give the care that I was, signed up for, right? I became a nurse. I became that person who cared and gave so much. And now I'm not even able to give half of what I usually give. And so my care, as I judge it, is not good. And it's even maybe not even safe. All right. So the result leads to the symptoms of burnout, right? And we all know the symptoms of burnout, this fatigue, this foggy mind, right? All the things that we just can't, we're in a negative place. This is moral injury. So we understand the root cause, right? Let's get now to, and please put your comments in there as we're going along if you want. And let's go now to the fact that we have a history behind this. What brought us to where we are today? Don't you love these nurses that are, jumping hurdles, which of course we're all very good at jumping hurdles as nurses, right? But what brought us here? I think it's really important to look at the history, because we tend to go to this place, and what I hear over and over again is that they don't get us. They do this, they don't do that. And I keep asking, who is they? Like, and what part do we play in this? So when I look at the history, we're constantly saying yes to many things. So our past history was about, let me just remove this. Our history was really about us saying yes. We were, and I remember this, I worked in oncology mostly. There was a lot of giving. There was a lot of, doing double shifts. I remember doing 3 days of double shifts in a row. But I was young and I was, gung ho, and I loved what I was doing. I had my environment. I had my team. I had, an incredible nurse manager, Angie Serrano. If you're out there, real kudos to you, because you made me who I am today, partly. So thank you to that, and to my whole team out there that I'm still connected to with some people, like the Anne Pavlovsky. I'm saying hello. And it's great to have that. But also in that place, we were saying yes to a lot of things. We said yes to double shifts. We said yes to doing more tasks. And we were getting tired and we were maybe rumbling about it, but we kept saying yes and we kept doing it. And even to the point where at some point we were doing it anyway, but we were complaining and we're saying, we can't do this. This is not fair. This grew into a complaint, but we continued to do it because that's who we were. We were givers, we were caregivers, and we still are. And that's what got us to this place. Whereas if you take a look at history teaching us something, today we're striking, we're out there, I don't want to say fighting for our rights, because I don't like the word fighting. I think it's more about standing up for our rights, and for the rights of our patients to be safe. But it's a little late. It's never too late, but it's later than we could have done earlier. We could have put a lot of no's and halts and changes and raised our voices a lot earlier in this game. That's not to say that we did wrong. We did it from a place of caring. We did it from a place of loving our profession, and sorry, not but, and where could we have done something differently way back, right? And it's not just about the job, it's also about the system. So I want to make sure that we pay attention to that, because it's not just about who we were in our job and who we are today in our job, but it's about the system. And the system is broken. All right. But that's where it is today. We need to take where are we now and how do we move forward from here. So that's really an important point to make. And in our history, to look at the results that our behaviors created, right? And all of us, not just nurses, all of us, we created limiting beliefs. We created a place that we are the victims of our circumstances. It gave us a sense of significance when we did that, right? So that's really important to understand, is that our history plays a big part in this. And how do we break the patterns of our past history? Well, I work with nurses along the way, and we talk about patterns a lot, right? Individual patterns and systemic patterns. So that's something we can talk about another time. So really the question behind all this, we understand what the challenges are. We understand the root cause being moral injury, and we understand the history. And there's a lot, we can go a lot deeper into this. And your comments, again, are really important in all of this, and contributing to this conversation, because I'm not the only one with a perspective here. We all have our perspectives on this. Okay, so we understand what is the struggle, or what is the challenge, what is the root cause, moral injury, and what is our history that brought us to this place. All right. But the bigger question now is, we are where we are. What are we committed to? So I want you to ask yourself that question. When you look at all of this, what are you committed to right now? What are you doing? What do your days look like? Who do you talk to? And how do you talk to them? And what do you talk about? Well, I can tell you that when we ask the question, what are we committed to? Often we're committed to the struggle. So let me explain that. We're committed to complaining about what's wrong with the system, what's wrong with so-and-so working with me, what's wrong with me even. Okay, I go and judge myself, right? So I'm committed to the struggle, committed to complaining about it. What's wrong with healthcare? And we hear it over and over and over and over again. People go and have lunch together or breaks together or after their shift, and we talk about it on social media. We're committed to the struggle. Well, that doesn't get us anywhere except into the whirlwind of all of it. We're just spinning. And then we go home and we complain to our spouses and complain to our families about the system. We meet people in the street and they talk to, oh, you're a nurse. Oh, it's so hard. And the struggle is all that comes up, because in that place of struggle, it's all we know. We don't know how to get out of it, right? So what is another place that we could go to versus the struggle? Give me some ideas here in the chat. Yeah, we can be committed to the solution, right? The solution. And what is the solution? People are talking about solutions now. We go to conferences, we're hearing a lot about AI. We're talking a lot about how to get more nurses on the floors, how to spend the money differently. There are different ways. And I'm part of a group right now that's called Nurses Transforming Healthcare. I'd love for you guys to check that out, Nurses Transforming Healthcare, where nurses are starting to look at how do we become different of the kind of care we're giving. So clinics opening up with nurses running it so that we're becoming more preventative, involving communities so that we find out what does your community need and how can nurses help that community. So I love it. I think it's such great energy. So we're not looking at only about fixing healthcare, but we're looking at changing it, right? So there are different angles. There are different ideas, perspectives. And the challenge with the solution is that it's a long-term commitment. It requires us to have an open mind, be curious, be inclusive, non-judgmental, doing things, differently than we've done before. And so the solution means that we need to be involved. We need to be a lot more inclusive of other areas. We need to be sitting down as nurses having conversations with doctors. We need to dare to go and speak with the finance people, the CEOs, the higher management, sit down and have real conversations. And if we can't do it in our workplace, which would be a great place to start, we have a whole bunch of connections on LinkedIn, on Facebook even, where we can reach out to people who are out there speaking about this. Connect with them, have a conversation. I'm connecting with somebody today that just reached out to me last night. We're just sitting down today and talking about, what are you doing? What am I doing? How can we support each other? And also, really, when I'm listening to conferences and people who are in different areas that I may not understand fully, I ask, so how do you see your perspective working, the changes that you want to make? And here's what I might see as a challenge to that. Have you thought about that? Oh, you've thought about it. Great. And so how are you approaching that? I get really curious. I let go entirely of my judge. I do not want to be present in a conversation with my judge, say, yeah, but, you don't understand. That doesn't help. We're never, ever going to move into the right direction if we start to defend our particular perspective. We need to be open and learn from others. That's why I love this Nurses Transforming Healthcare. I think that they've got great ideas and they're making moves on it. So why not? I mean, why not take a look at what's working and maybe grow on it and learn from it? And again, I say, we need to come together with all levels of leadership, right? From frontline right up to decision makers, even in government, right? And more so maybe in government. But it's really about us getting involved. But that takes time, right? It's not tomorrow. We're not going to come in and everything's going to be fixed. And for many of us who, we've got a lot of older nurses who are wanting to leave the profession because it's getting really challenging and, they don't want to deal with all this. But there's going to be some drastic changes where nursing doesn't look at all like nursing used to when we first became nurses. And new nurses, you're coming into this profession with a different perspective than the older nurses, and helping to understand each other, to say, well, this is the way I see it, and maybe you're stuck a little bit in your old ways. Challenge us a little bit. I think it's really important. And older nurses, yeah, there are some great things that worked in those days. Are they still relevant today? Are they still going to help us to move forward? I know I was one of those nurses who got stuck in the place of saying, we need to go back to the way it was. Well, as long as I hung on to that, I was going to be a miserable nurse, right? So, and I needed to change my perspective. I needed to let go and say, well, what else is available? I don't know what the future brings. I have some ideas, but as we're moving forward together, we need to do this together, right? So that's really where I'm going with focusing on the solution. So do we commit to the struggle? Absolutely not. That's a no. That doesn't help us. Committing to solutions, there are many people out there working on different solutions. Get involved, get curious, see where you're drawn to. We're not all drawn to the same place, by the way. Some of us are working with nurses, which is what I do. Some of us are working with politicians. Some of us are working with, the AI, the technology of the future. Some of us are working with the high level leaders, to help them who are also struggling, right? So we all have a part to play. Just find out what that part is. And you don't need to commit to anything right now. You just need to get curious. Maybe the commitment is just to be curious, all right? And start asking questions, start reading about things. Get involved. Really get involved. I got to tell you, getting involved feels good. It does. It just makes you feel so much more informed and less caught up in the struggle. So the solution is one step. The But what do we do? And what do we do in the meantime? What do we do as we're being part of the solution, but not wanting to get caught up in the struggle? But we need to be showing up to work, and there's struggle showing up everywhere, right? So how do we handle that? And this is the piece that I want you to walk away with. It is all about committing to the wins, right? Committing to the wins. Be part of celebrating what is working well. And when I say what's working well, I'm not saying necessarily what's working well in the system. I'm saying what's working well in today, in this very moment, right? And in order to do that, it's taking a look at, where are we on the meter? Like we can be leaning towards the struggle, or we could be leaning towards the wins, the things that are working well, that we're moving towards. The focus is, where are we going, right? And sometimes we don't know exactly where we're going, but we need to just celebrate the wins. So as you can see up here, I've got a nurse standing in a in the nursing station, or in the break room, wherever you choose to do it in your department. And here they're looking at collective wins as a team. So they go in and they chart and say, well, we had a difficult client, we had a difficult patient today, and we handled it this way, and I'm really happy about the way we handled it. Now, it could be I chart my personal wins up on that board, or I chart somebody else's wins, or a collective win. But it's about focusing on the positive. It's about focusing on the direction that's moving us in the right place. Got to tell you, I work with positive intelligence, which is PQ. We call it PQ. And it's all about how our brain functions. So we can have sabotaging thoughts in our left brain, or we can have positive thoughts coming from our sage, our best selves, in our right brain. I have a free webinar. You can check it out on aliveinhealthcare.com. There's a free webinar on positive intelligence that I highly, highly, highly recommend that you attend and find out more about this. But what we're doing by focusing on wins is that we're building the neural pathways towards positivity, which allows us, by the way, to go back to helping people with solutions coming from a positive attitude, not a negative attitude. Okay. This also helps me with my day. If I can chart my wins as I'm progressing, my focus is on looking for the good things and increasing them. Okay. What we focus on expands. All right. And what's the other saying that Wayne Dyer says? When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It doesn't mean the problems are not still there. It doesn't mean that you're not, be faced with certain struggles. Okay. Don't get me wrong. This is not about, making every bad thing look good, because we still need to work on that. However, when we are focusing on the wins, we are building the neural pathways that will help us get to better solutions and have a better shift and a better day altogether. And we show up as a better person to our families when we go home. I'm telling you, I have done this with clients. I have done this in hospitals. I have done this with personal clients in organizations that are not even healthcare. And this works. It is so powerful. You may think it's so small, but it is very powerful. And it kind of reminds me about when we were kids, and you used to get the stars, just like you see here on the right side of the page. You see the stars here. The only difference with that is that now we're doing this collectively. Okay. It's not about me being compared to Sarah and to Susie in the class, where I have 5 stars and she's got 6 or whatever. This is about a collective win. So my clients keep their personal wins on a paper. They mark down, everything. And I'm talking about everything from, I want to drink more water. I chart down, I finished my liter of water. I chart it down as a win. I decided to go for a walk instead of sit down and watch TV. That's a win. Now bring it back to the nursing floor, right? Bring it back to your teams. What are the wins that you have in your teams? Let them really focus on how they're doing things well. Like our department is celebrating magnificent wins right now. And when nursing managers can start sharing that together, that takes me to the next place, okay, which is in the wins, we're talking about community. All right. How do we create our communities? Nurse managers are, well, I'm going to say anybody in a solo leadership, managers are always struggling and they're feeling alone. You guys are not alone. I can't tell you enough that you are not alone. Every single leader out there is struggling, and it's time for you to start coming together. So I go into organizations and I work with a group of nurse managers. And now I say, for example, what we just did in South Africa, not only are we continuing to do the work together, but we're also asking the nurses, so the nurse managers, to find a group. And in that particular day when we were working together, they went together for matching up with 2, 3, 4 nurse managers together. Their commitment, again, it's a commitment, right, is about meeting once a week and celebrating the wins they've had in their departments. And then they can also bring up their challenges and saying, I'm really having a struggle finding wins around this particular challenge. Well, somebody else in another department goes, well, this is how we do it. And so now they have created a movement of their own in their departments and in their community of nurse managers to share and celebrate the wins, because it keeps the momentum again in that positive neural pathways and makes things more enjoyable. And I got to tell you, we as nurses have the strength to do more. And it's not about doing more, but because we're already doing more, it's about doing that more with a lot lighter attitude while we're trying to find the solutions to the problems. Okay. We're in this. It's like, a tornado has hit, a flood has hit. We're in the mess together, right? We can complain about it, or we can all actively come together and say, how do we make this better and move in the direction of rebuilding our community, right? That's what this is all about. So if I can only stress to you the importance of the wins and building your communities in your workplace, so that you have, we have so many meetings. I know that. But if there's one meeting that's going to be the most significant meeting, is the one about creating conversation around what's working, what are we doing, what are we celebrating, how are we building positivity in our teams and in ourselves and collectively, and how do we sustain that? And then we go back to the solutions, right? We're still working on solutions, but remember, that's a slow process. This is alive and working right now. This is how we make it through our days. And we need to know that there's some positive people around us. I mean, we are what's the expression? We are the sum of the 5 people we hang around with the most. So if you're hanging around with people who are sitting there and complaining about the struggle, then it's no surprise that you are in that place of struggle. You're in that place of mental stress, right? And this leads to that PQ webinar that I run, a free webinar right now. And I'm telling you, go to aliveandhealthcare.com, look for the PQ webinar, look for the, it's called Mental Fitness Webinar, okay? It's all about how do we exercise our brains regularly to get them into a positive neural pathways, okay? And it's a lot more complex because I talk about the science about it. I talk about our saboteurs. There are 10 saboteurs in our brain. You get to do an assessment. It's a great thing to come and see and learn more about yourselves. That's the other thing, work on personal development. Keep learning things to help you through this, to help you build a better community, to help you build a better day and celebrate the wins. We do not celebrate wins enough. I can't stress that enough, right? And you're going to hear me say that. I can't stress that enough. And to be celebrating the wins, It comes from a place of, and sorry about these slides. I have no idea what's gone on with these slides, but bear with me. So the wins bring us immediate gratification. There's camaraderie. I talked about the community building, right? There's respect that comes out of it. Sustainable progress. Wow. What's that word? Sustainable. Don't we want to be doing things that are sustainable versus just doing things and then tomorrow that you come in and they're just dropped off? No, sustainable is the key word here. Significance. We feel significance. We feel important. We feel like we've done something great today. Even if there are 100 things we didn't do great today, it's okay because the situation doesn't allow us to go there. However, let's focus on how we are winning in these moments. And it gives us hope. I got to tell you, that's one big thing. I think nurses have lost hope, and that's why nurses are leaving, and that's why nurses are crashing. We have no more hope. And so this brings hope. Again, trust me. It brings a positive mindset, building new neural pathways, and retention. Nurses won't want to leave as much. I mean, I heard it yesterday with one of my clients where she was talking about, she's sometimes there are days when she's burnt out and whatever, but she says, this is the best team. We're building a community together. We can, through our hardships, we can really we join forces and we know that we are doing the best that we can, and we remind ourselves of this. We need that. We so badly need that. All right. And what I want to just give you is how this has brought me in my business to a very different place. So I celebrate my wins. I have my paper that I write on every day. I don't do it on a daily basis because I don't want to compare my wins from today to tomorrow and from yesterday. Why did I get 10 wins yesterday and I only have 9 today? It's not about comparison. It's about just writing the wins for the sake of writing the wins and getting those neural pathways in the right place. So I do that. And that being said, I am strong on community. So I've built my own communities. I have my own group of nurses that I meet with on a regular basis every week. I meet with a group of coaches who are in my profession who understand this. And I meet with a leadership group that I have that I did a training in for a year in Spain. Over a year, we did some training together. I was the only Canadian. There were no Americans there. And I had people from Germany, Spain, Dubai, Norway, England, a whole group of people. And we meet regularly. These are my communities. I build my communities. I've now built a new community with the Nurses Transforming Healthcare. And I am building smaller communities of individuals whom I choose to meet with and have conversations with. So community is big. So what have I done? I said, I realize how strong that is and how important that is. So I created a group called Join the Movement, Nurses Reclaim Life. So you can go to, if you go to Alive in Healthcare, where these screens really messed up, I really apologize today. aliveinhealthcare.com/join the movement / which doesn't show at the bottom here. You will see the information on Join the Movement, or just go to aliveinhealthcare.com and you can see Join the Movement and find out more information about it. But we built a community where you join up, you pay a membership for a year, okay, $97. That's mind-blowingly the value of that is way, way, way more. And what you get is a community of nurses that meet every week. You can choose to come every week, every second week, whatever you want. And this is the place where we all share our wins. This is where we share our struggles that we are having a challenge finding a win in, and learn from other nurses who are going through the same thing and who help you find the positive angle on that, or how to celebrate the wins, or how to help the situation. Okay. So we're here to support each other. This is a community of nurses. I run these calls. There are 3 calls a week. So they're different time zones. You can join these calls and get the support, and you build communities globally. globally. There, I mean, we think we have our challenges wherever we are. There are challenges around the world that are different, or they've found solutions to those challenges. And maybe this is time that we can learn and take that back to the solution commitment, right? So I really, really want you to take a look, at least go to the website, take a look at the video that's there and all the key factors of what we stand for. And I'd love to have you as a member of this Join the Movement, Nurses Reclaim Life. Now, at the very top, I've put in this link to aliveinhealthcare.com call to action. Okay, this is an invitation for you if you want to have a conversation with me for an hour. Okay, my rates are not the rate that I'm giving you here in this call to action. I'm sending you this particular link to book a session with me for 1 hour for a price of $33. $33 for an hour with me. This is going to help me it's going to help me to help you see where you are, where you want to go, what your struggles might be, what you're committing to, what you could commit to differently, and how to help you through that process. We can do this in an hour. And then to top that off, the first 10 people who do that will have an opportunity to join the movement for a year at no cost. Okay. And at that point, I will give you a promo code to go in for a year for free. All right. So this is a great opportunity, guys, to have this conversation together. And you're not committed. I mean, if you don't want to join the movement, that's fine. If you just want to have an hour conversation with me, then just book that. We will work through that. I will help you wherever you are. And let's see even about how we can bring this to your own community, right? Let's work together. I have some solutions. Let's build other solutions together, right? This is about coming to a community, having those conversations. And this is how we start to join other people and say, you know what, I'd love for you to speak to so-and-so, or vice versa, right? So my call to action today is for you to come to the aliveinhealthcare.com, check out Join the Movement, Nurses Reclaim Life. Even look at the webinar called Mental Fitness. That's also a free webinar. There's a lot of great things you can get for free right now. And if you want to have a call with me, absolutely go to aliveinhealthcare.com/call to action, number 2 action. And book a session with me on my calendar, and I will, we'll have that discussion and talk more about your scenario. So I am so happy that you connected today, that you're watching this. I'd love for you to bring this back to your community. If there's anything I can do to bring this talk even to your community, directly to a group of your nurses, your managers, your leaders, let me know. I have associates on my team as well that can work with a very high level on strategic approaches to this. I mean, there are solutions. We just need to talk. All right. And I'm really looking forward. I mean, you can get off this call. You can say, this is the end of the call and I move on to my day, or you can take advantage of something that you showed up for and there are no mistakes, that an opportunity has shown up for you. All right. So have yourself a winning day. Celebrate your wins, start to talk about the wins. And when people are struggling, help them to see that they can be part of the solution, which is a slow process, but people are needed, or they can be part of, and they can be part of the wins by celebrating the wins. Please, please, please reach out to me in any way that I can help you. I am on a mission to bring 10 million nurses across the world. Yes, you heard me, 10 million nurses across the world globally, to live and breathe positivity, possibility, really important. We need to look at possibility, and joy. And to close that on the joy, we can look for happiness, but happiness is circumstantial. If you want happiness, it's going to be, I will be happy when I'm retired. I'll be happy when they get me more nurses. I'll be happy when, or I can go for joy. And joy defies all circumstances. So instead of waiting for circumstances, joy says, I'm going to have an attitude that's going to be a winning attitude and defies all that's happening around me that I'm working on helping. But in the moment, I'm choosing joy. And so today, have a joyful, winning day. I look forward to talking to you.